Hi friends, it's Mag and we're back to do another video for you today. Slightly different. We're not going to do Lego. We're not going to do a shave video. This one is about handheld electronic games or tabletop games. I do have Pac-Man and Zaxxon, and then we have a bunch of handheld games from Tiger Electronics. Let's look at each one individual and find out the finer details of these games. So we're going to start today's review by looking at Tiger Electronics. The company was founded in 1978, and in its early days, it mostly made electronic items like phonographs. But then the company started branching out into the electronic game and toy industry, and that's what they mostly became known for. Now, the games that we have on display here are Space Fight, Bowling, Pinball, Road Race, Football, and Jordan vs. Bird 1-on-1. There are so many games that Tiger Electronics produced, it would take me literally longer than I would care for to recite all of the games. However, below the video, I will include a link to a blog that has all of the games listed, and if you so choose, you can go out to any of the auction sites or wholesaler sale sites, and you could probably purchase the games today. They range in price anywhere from $9 up to maybe $30, $40, depending on the game, depending on its condition, and whether or not you get the instructions with it or not. Now, all of these games have LCD screens, and every single one of Tiger Electronics games have elements printed right on the game screen. They're all in black and white, no color. They all have only a couple of buttons, and they're very difficult to play without the instructions. Some of them are kind of self-explanatory, but there are little nuances within the game that having the instructions would help you, and I don't have the instructions for any of these. So during this video, I'm going to put batteries in these devices for the first time in more than 20 years, and we're going to see if they work, and we're going to try to do a little bit of gameplay for you. Now, throughout the late 80s and early 90s is when these games became popular, but they were very simplistic in nature, and at the time, they were attractive, but they really never held people's attention for long periods of time. The controls are not super responsive, and reading a bunch of blogs online across various sites, that was one of the major complaints that Tiger Electronics had, was that the controls were not as responsive as people would like them to be. Now, despite all that, they were still successful as a company selling these handheld games because, number one, the price. You couldn't beat it. These were actually not very expensive. And during the era that these electronic games became popular, there was also a game console called the Game Boy. And that, of course, was much more expensive. The other driving attraction for these games is that each game was independent, and you did not need a game system like the Game Boy to play the game. Now, another reason why Tiger Electronics was so successful during that time frame was because they knew how to franchise. Most major movie franchises and TV shows had their own LCD game, and Tiger was even able to acquire licenses for many video game brands like Castlevania, Double Dragon, Duke Nukem, Ninja Gaiden, Sonic, Street Fighter, on and on and on. So we have Jordan vs. Bird 1-on-1. I'm going to bring it closer, and I'm going to try to limit some of the lighting in here so you can get a good look at the screen. Now, this is before the power is turned on, and you can see that there are printed elements on the game screen. You have the actual court, and then you have the score up here, and then over here on the side is another section for yet a completely separate type of game. You have one directional keypad, you have a select or steal option on top, and then you have the shoot on the bottom. This section here is the speaker that you'll be able to hear the game sounds with if you decide to choose and turn the sound on. Now, you have an off button, you have a sound button, you have a game selector, so if there are more than one type of game you could play within the handheld, you would select it by that. And then you have your power, and then you have start of the game. And here is a little pinhole button that you can choose to reset the game. On the back, there is the patent number. I'll bring this even closer. You can see that this was 1988 Tiger Electronics Incorporated. And it takes 2 AA batteries, and of course this was made in China. And here is just more speakers on the back, held by 4 Phillips screws. You could take this apart and get into it. I do have batteries in here. We have some Energizer rechargeables, 2 AA batteries. And this game is one that I did try before I started filming, so it does work. Let's see if we can turn it on. All right. And then you can see that the player is illuminated. We now have a 0 and a 1, and then very faint is our basketball shooter there. Now, not to be too stereotypical, but this gentleman has his arms, legs, and face colored in. This gentleman does not, if you can make that out. So there is your Jordan versus Bird. And you do have a hoop up here for the basket. Now, let's see what kind of games we can do. So we have a 1 up in the upper right-hand corner. There's a 2. Oh, now we're over to the side with another basket way up top. That's a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, a 7 with no defender, and then a 1. So there's 7 different games. Now, I tried doing the one over here, and I think it's more like a slam dunk contest or something like that. I really don't know how it works. Sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't, and I didn't figure it out. So this is game number 1. I'm assuming it's simple one-on-one basketball. So let's start that. Oop. Oh, he stole the ball from me. Oh, I missed. No. Shoot. Shoot. Oh, I don't have the ball. Steal. I'm losing. Oh. Uh-oh. Well, I don't know if there's a level here, but... Oh. Well, anyway, we could turn the sound off. Let's see if we can try a different game. Let's go with this one here, 3. It looks like we're Bird, and we'll turn the sound back on. Let's start this one here. Let's see. Oh, missed. Missed again. Missed again. Oh. See, the buttons are so irresponsive. Well, I'm gonna be here all day trying to play Jordan vs. Bird, but that is one of the games, and this one is one of the difficult ones because you don't know, other than you try to go up and down and shoot, you don't know the timing, you don't know the specifics on when to shoot or how to shoot. You could probably feel your way through the game and understand it after a while, but this was so confusing that I'm glad it works, and I can hunt around the internet a little bit more. I didn't find any instructions, but we can try. All right, now here we have football. This one I did play as well, and this one I pretty much got the gist of it. And then we have our musical notes. Let's see, we have player 1, level 1, level 2, level 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just going to stay on level 1 just to demonstrate this for you. Now, I'm going to hit start, and we're at the 35-yard line, our 35-yard line. We have a receiver out there, and then we have defenders coming down. So we need to avoid the defenders. If I don't move forward past the line of scrimmage, I can try throwing the ball. And that one did not do well. I think the guy intercepted it. 10-yard line, huh? Okay. And there's 14 minutes left in the quarter. I threw it. I hit the receiver. Now, I'm going to run. You can see in the upper right-hand corner as I run, the yardage is going up. Oh, I got tackled. So it's first down and 10. 12 minutes left. No score. 27-yard line. Whoop. That was bad. Guy intercepted it. It's going back the other way. All right. So this time I'm going to run, and I'm going to demonstrate, what this looks like. So I'm just going to run. Give me a few minutes. Starting all the way on my 10-yard line. And if I stay away from the defenders and I don't stand in front of them for a long period of time, I can continue running. Because they have to block me, and then if they stand in front of me for a while, that's how they tackle me. So I'm up to our 30-yard line, 31. And when I get inside the 15 of my opponent, you're going to see in the upper left-hand corner cheerleaders. And then, of course, I have my blocker out there. Now, I can't pass. The game won't let me pass because I've already gone by the line of scrimmage. So you just got to keep moving out from in front of the defenders. Then you can keep running down the field. Right now we're on the 42, 41. Come on. We're getting there. I think I'm going to score a touchdown this time. Of course, this is level 1. I think with the higher levels, it becomes more difficult. There's more defenders. They're faster to get in front of you. They tackle you quicker. All right, we're inside the 20. So in a moment, you'll see the cheerleaders cheering me on to score a touchdown. There they are. Once I get to like the 3-yard line, the defenders will give up, and I'll be able to run in for a touchdown and then kick the field goal to get the extra point. This is it. Just got to pass these guys. Come on. There we go. Touchdown. Okay, now I'm going to kick. This is, I can't guide it. I just hit kick, and the little ball is going to try to get through the uprights. I made it. So 7 points, and there's 5 minutes left in the quarter. So that's pretty much it for football. I should say easier to understand how to play. You really don't need the instructions for this. I mean, everybody knows the concepts of football. Everyone knows the concepts of basketball as well, but this was a little bit more difficult. Now, I did score some baskets when I tried before filming. I just couldn't get any on film. So let me just take a quick pause. I'm going to swap the batteries out from those two games into these other ones, and then we'll see what they do. Okay, here we have Space Fight. I'm going to turn the power on. This one's pretty easy. So, quite simply, you have different levels after you shoot them. It almost reminds me of asteroids. You have a couple turrets on this, and then this button will rotate you left and right, and simply just shoot the oncoming ships. And this was one of my games that I recall playing these back in the day. This was one of my favorite games. Probably the bowling and the pinball would be the other one. But this one was pretty cool. There you go. The guy crashed into the turret. So this was Space Fight, and I like this. This was a pretty good game. I'm going to turn it off here, and we'll move on to the next one. All right, I have Road Race. So let's turn this one on. Speed, brake, and left, right. All right, fine. This almost reminds me of Pole Position. Early Nintendo style. Oh, that was a crash waiting to happen. So this was a pretty fun game as well. Not too bad. Got the guy over here. I don't know if he's telling me I got a... Oh, lap 2. Okay, lap 2. So this is pretty neat. Neat game. Works real good. Guy has Tiger on the helmet. And this was a fun game as well. So another game that you don't exactly need the instructions to figure out. Now, there's 2-player, 1-player, and then I think during the game, let's start. Okay, so as you play, right, you got the red, yellow, green, the number of cars you have. Of course, you have to, you can get lapped. And then you could tap the brakes and slow down and speed up, whatnot. You actually have a speed lever and a fuel gauge. As your fuel gets down, you'll have to hit fuel, and then eventually I think the car will actually pit and fill up with fuel, which is pretty neat. But we're not going to demo the game that long to understand that we need fuel. All right, let's move on to the last two. All right, here we have bowling. And this was one of my favorite games as well. I haven't played this in a long time, so let's see if I actually remember how to do this. So we have release, roll the ball straight, left and right, controls the curve. Okay. 2-player, 1-player. All right, let's start. All right, let's see if we can just do a straight ball here. Hey, there's a strike. All right. Let's see if we can do a curveball. Yeah, not bad. Ooh, split. Let's see if we can do a spare. Nope. Right in the gutter. Right in the old tank. There's another strike, so not too bad. I kind of remember. So the timing, right when the player is about to release the ball, is when you want to hit your direction. So you can do straight, left, right, center. Let's see if we can get a spare. There we go, spare. And this tells you your score. It's the 5th frame. I don't know if you can see that way up in the corner there. I'll bring that closer. And then you can see it's ball 1 of 2 right above the pins. So this was a pretty fun game. Bowling, I used to play that a lot. In fact, not with that game, but with a different bowling game. I received some score sheets, and I found those laying around, so I kind of use those, right? So strolling bowling. I used to have like little pins, and you can see right there is a bowling ball with feet. So you could wind this guy up, and then he would hop down the lane, and he would knock over the pins, and you would keep score. I don't have that guy anymore. I have no idea where it is. In fact, I don't have the pins. I don't have the game board. I don't have anything. But I do have a ton of these sheets that came with the game. So I just kind of hang on to them, and I just put a clip around them, and then I use these to keep score bowling. Just a little extra that you can do right before, or not right before, but before they did electronic scoring. Yes, folks, we used to keep our own score. You'd have to add when you had doubles, the 2 strikes in a row, or you would have plus 10, plus the first ball on a spare, etc. So I don't know how many of you out there, youth-wise, know how to keep score of bowling, but that was something that we used to have to do on our own. Anyway, on to the last one. This is our 6th one and final Tiger Electronics game we have. I don't think I have any more in storage for these guys, but I wouldn't be surprised if I find any. So let me turn this on. Now we get to choose the level. We have a total of 5 levels. I'm just going to leave it on level 1 for today. You have your left and right flipper. Here is the ball release, or the spring. So we just hit that. Start. And then we get a ball. So release. All right, there we go. We'll just wait for the ball to come down. Oh, we got 500 points. It went to the center. Well, that didn't work out so well. In fact, if it comes down the outsides, right, if you could see, there's a flipper on the outside too. Let's do one more ball real quick. Oh, too fast. Too fast with the flipper. Anyway, that is Pinball. So, that's it for our Tiger Electronics games. Now, let's get into some of the other ones. The next game we're going to talk about is a tabletop game. Those of you that were around in the early 80s may recognize this game and, in fact, this gaming device. This is a tabletop game. It was produced by Coleco, which was licensed under Sega. Now, this particular type of game was referred to as a VFD. And if you don't know what that is, a VFD is referred to as a vacuum fluorescent display, and it projects images using mirrors. This particular game, Zaxxon, came out in 1982 as an arcade game, and then it was released in this tabletop version in 1983. It is a single joystick controller that you can use either left or right-handed because you have fire buttons on each side, exactly like the arcade game. You have level 1 and level 2 as a skill set, and the image is projected inside again with mirrors, and I'll show you that in a moment. But you can see Zaxxon by Sega, and here is Coleco, the producer. We'll just take a look at the side. That's the official Zaxxon emblem, and it just slopes in the back, same on the other side. Now, this does take batteries, and I got it upside down. Let's flip it around this way. So you can see it's number 2396 Zaxxon, and there's your operating instructions here. Trademark of Sega, 1982. And this uses 4 D-cell batteries. I will open the battery compartment. Hopefully they won't fall out, but there you are. 4 D-cell batteries. So, let's turn this bad boy on and see if we can get a good image inside. So here is Zaxxon, and the object of the game is that you can fly low, and if you fly low, you have to get through the wall. And the order way to hit things, like the tanks and the barricades, is if you fly low. Now the red items that shoot back at you, sometimes are high, sometimes are low. And you have one joystick. You can use left and right. If you push down on the joystick, you actually go down. If you pull back on the joystick, you rise, just like a plane. Oh, didn't do too well there. But it's not too bad. I mean, the joystick is a little bit difficult to get used to, but once you understand the game, you know, it's not too bad to play. The only thing that you really got to watch out for is the mirror setup in here. Because of the angle that you're looking at it, it doesn't look like your plane is going to make it through the hole in the wall. So that's why you have to make sure that you go far left if you want to get through the opening on the left, or far right to get the opening on the right, and then the middle. Usually you're pretty good. If you're like in the middle of the screen, you should be fine. But I've had this game for so long, I'm so glad that it plays. It's a lot of fun. So let's move on to our next video game, which is Pac-Man. Here it is, Pac-Man by Tommytronic. This game was so popular, it released under 4 different names, but ultimately always looking the same, always functioning the same. It just had a different name. Tommy was actually Japanese, and you can see the symbols here above the man in the title. 4 directional pads, either an amateur or a pro setting, and then you have your off and on button. It was very simplistic. It kind of looked like Pac-Man, almost like a flying saucer actually, and it did have a direct current port in case you did not want to use batteries. Yes, it does take batteries. In fact, you can see a little discoloration here on the back. Here are your instructions for Pac-Man, so you can actually know what you need to do, and it tells you if you get over 2,000 points, you get an extra Pac-Man. But unfortunately, over the years, I did have some corrosion with the batteries, and I lost one of the leads, so I cannot play this with batteries, but it does work on direct current. So I can plug it in, and we can actually look at the device in just a minute after I figure out how to close this back up. There we go. So the story about Pac-Man, right, or at least the story about Tommy, this came out in 1981. And when it came out, it was this bright yellow plastic case which resembled the actual game character, Pac-Man. And depending on if you have this in the original packaging or not, nowadays you're finding this for sale used on some of the social media auction websites, so to speak, for $30 to $50. But if you have one in mint condition, especially in the packaging, there's been records of sales to go over $100 for the single video game. Us being from the U.S., we are familiar with the name Pac-Man, and the pellet-eating individual himself makes an appearance in the title of the game, as the C for Pac. Now, depending on where you are in the rest of the world, you may know this as a different name. In the UK, the actual release was called Pac-Man. In fact, there were multiple names for the UK. Later on in the 80s, there was a company called Grandstand that actually re-released this game. It looked exactly the same again, same functions and everything, but it was called Munchman. And then in the region of origin, which would be Japan, where Pac-Man came from, this was actually called Pac-Man in Japan. And lastly, this game was released in Australia, and then it was called Pac-Man 1. Now, the franchise was so successful, it went on to produce Pac-Man 2, Mrs. Pac-Man, and then it had a nice run across all of the game consoles. In fact, still today, you can buy versions of it, even classic arcade games for the Xbox and the PlayStation. But the programming on Pac-Man was so simplistic that it had a few flaws. So let's plug this in, turn it on so we can see the actual game screen. Okay, I have my cable in the back, and we're going to leave this on amateur, and I'm going to turn it on. All right, so there is the game screen. Now, unfortunately, it starts to go right away, and that's that ticking because the ghosts come out. So you can see that there are pellets, but it's not all over the game board, just like you would expect to see in the arcade version. They're spaced out. And unfortunately, one of the flaws of the game is that Pac-Man has to go left to right in order to eat the pellets. So if I come up and I go to the right, it does not eat. So I have to go that way. Now, in the amateur mode, there are only 2 ghosts. And in the pro mode, there are 3 ghosts. Now, you can be on the left side of a ghost in order to eat them. You don't have to cross them. I'm going to have my cherry. And let's see if we can clear the rest of the board, even though I had my 2 power pellets. And let's see where those ghosts are going. There we go. We cleared the screen. So you do get 3 Pac-Man, and this is board 2. Again, if you get to 2,000 points, then you get an additional Pac-Man, and you can go on and on and on and on. The Pac-Man game was so simplistic, but still fun. In fact, I think every child who is into video games must have owned one of these at some point. Not necessarily this game, but Pac-Man itself. And it was across, again, all the different gaming consoles of the time. In fact, even today, I'm sure some of you still play Pac-Man in some version. So between this and our tabletop Zaxxon and our many handheld Tiger Electronics games, I want to say thanks everybody for watching the video and participating with us, bringing back some memories and enjoying some of the good old 1980s. In fact, it was such a pleasure to do this. I hope I can find the rest of my video games tucked away somewhere. I know I had some VTech ones. I had some handheld hockey. Man, you name it, I had the video game growing up as a kid. In fact, I have the Genesis, I have the Nintendo 3DS, I have the PlayStation Portable. Even today, I'm still collecting video game consoles and video games of all kinds. So we really do appreciate you taking the time and taking a trip down memory lane with us. We hope that this was good for you and that you liked the video. In fact, give us a thumbs up if you do. Click that subscribe button and select the bell so that you can get alerts when we post new videos on our channel. Thank you so much for supporting us over the years, and don't forget to check the links that I'm going to leave in the description below the video and visit some of the sites where you can get some information or even make a purchase. And until the next video, stay safe and happy gaming.